Welcome to the Cookbook, where we invite guests on to share the ingredients of what has helped make them the successes that they are. All of it, the good, the not so good. You're not going to find anything half-baked here. And our kitchen gets messy sometimes. That's when the fun starts. So come on and join us. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Cookbook, Take 20. I am your host, Iris Goldfeder, and super excited today. Today, the Cookbook podcast has officially come full circle. Why? Because my guest today, Elaine Williams, whom I love and adore, was the very first guest of the Cookbook. So I'm crazy excited about this in general. But since that episode, we have become amazing friends. She's an amazing human. She's amazing at what she does. She's just all around amazing. So I'm going to read her bio and then bring her on. All right. Elaine Williams is a video performance coach, keynote speaker, speaker coach, best-selling author, and comedian who has over a decade of experience working with entrepreneurs to build confidence and a captivating presence on camera and with public speaking to get their message out in the world with authenticity, ease, and humor. And you know how I feel about authenticity. Well, hell, and humor. Okay, so some of her credits include Saturday Night Live, America's Got Talent, HBO, ABC, NBC, Fox, The New York Times, Hay House Radio, and The Huffington Post. Her clients have gone from never doing video or speaking live to having their own YouTube channels, doing international book tours, and speaking for NASA. That is still my favorite. Her specialty is getting her clients to own their authority while also sharing their humanity authentically and with humor so that their ideal clients lean in and engage. So without further ado, let's meet Elaine again.
Hello.
Hello. Hi. This is so freaking cool.
Isn't it cool? I was just thinking, like, I think I was in Maryland at a hotel lobby.
You were in a coffee shop.
Yeah, I was in a coffee shop and I remember I was traveling and I was like, no, I can't, I don't want to reschedule it because I love this woman and I feel so honored to be her first guest. Like, whatever I have to do, we're doing it. If I have to move mountains, you know.
And it was 2 years the mountains. I know. It's so crazy. And I remember I was like, even though it was you, right? I was just still so nervous because I'd never done it before. I had just decided, like, I think it was 3 weeks before that to be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do a podcast. Oh shit. Okay. Let's do this. Right. So it was like, oh my God. And then we did the episode and it's been uphill ever since then. For both of us, really. You've been rocking and rolling and yeah.
And so have you, my friend. You know, Iris, I was thinking about this. Like so for people who don't know, we met through this organization that we weren't even members of, but we just connected. And now we're both members of this group called the Dames. And it's for badass female entrepreneurs.
Yep.
And Iris is wildly popular, which she probably would not ever, say that. But when I was at the Fun Friends in Denver in October, people were freaking out over Iris and like, I have to meet you. And like, she had a line of people who wanted to meet you and hang out with you. And here's what I want to say about that is you're just so dang authentic. And I think that is just what has people go, I have to meet this woman because you're just so you. And, I just know you're going to be kind, but you're going to give me feedback. You're not going to blow smoke up my ass. No. And you're just going to tell it like it is for the highest good. But I think there's something that is so appealing. And I just think you're just awesome. And I hope that I know that you do great work, but there is an authenticity about you and a realness and a rawness that I think, and you're finally being allowed to really do that because we've spoken in the past when we worked in male dominated offices or whatever. Well, I know she was, Iris, you were told you're too much you or whatever. And God knows I've been told, shh, calm down. You're too loud. You're too brassy. You're too much, not enough, too much, not enough. So anyway, it's so exciting to see you blossoming and growing and having people line up because they have to talk to you,
I mean, that's so funny to me because I will tell you that, like, it almost makes me teary because, I signed up for it. I was going to go because I wanted to meet the badass women. Like, I wanted to meet the people that I'd been talking to for the last almost, at that point, year and a half.
Right.
And, you telling me that is kind of blowing my mind. I had like no idea. I had no freaking idea. I mean, people came up to me, but I had no idea that people were like, oh my God, I don't even know what to do with that information, to be honest with you.
People were like, Iris, have you met Iris? You have to go meet Iris. Like, I was like, well, she's my friend, but nobody else was causing such a stir, and then you were leading the karaoke. Anyway, it was just cool.
The karaoke was fun. And I'll tell you, okay, so I have to tell you something really funny with the karaoke. So we were in Denver. So I talk about the dames all the time. Y'all know this, right? And we were in Denver and the altitude kicked my ass. I also just like, on my thing, but it literally kicked my ass. So I was, the responsible for karaoke. And I had this whole plan on walking in. It was going to be so fucking dramatic. I was going to walk in singing the story. Right. So I was going to walk in and, sing it. And the karaoke machine gets there and it's just like really, professional karaoke, not like mom's karaoke or whatever. And I'm like, let me check it out, check the sound out and everything. So I start singing it and I'm doing really, really, I'm like getting through the song and I get to the last chorus. And if you know the song, it's like Brandi Carlile takes every bit of whatever is in her soul and just blasts this last chorus. And I go to do it and the note is not there. And I'm like, where's my note? I can't. So Ron Ben Joseph and I run out and I get Ron. I'm like, Ron, I don't know what to do. And he's like, what's the matter? I'm like, my note's gone. Darling, your note's not gone. No, my note is gone. I can't hit that note. And so we go into the hotel stairwell and I'm like trying to hit the note and it's not there. And I realize I'm like texting because I sing the song all the time. And
right.
I do a really, not to be immodest, but, I'm good at what I do, right? So I kill that song. Couldn't hit the note. So I text a friend of mine and she goes, altitude. And I was like, she goes, you don't have enough air.
Ah.
I was like, you've got to be kidding me. So then I just, changed to Black Horse Cherry Tree, which I still walked in doing, but it was not going to have the, dramatic feel, right? The same effect of like walking in with like singing a cappella and, but that was such a game changer for me. And that was the night that I think Fabienne was calling me up to do it. And I just like lost it because I realized that I did belong in that room after being in, we'll just say a business relationship that didn't work.
Right.
I was feeling pretty crappy about stuff and for a really long time. And to rebuild my business under certain restrictions that I had at that time to what it was for me mind blowing. But again, to be there and realize that I really belong in that room was just, it was just stunning. I was just like, wow.
That's awesome.
So it was really cool. But you were there and you did your comedy shtick, and I still have it. I still watch it.
Oh, cool.
Because I sent it, you're like, record this for me. I'm like, okay. And I recorded it and I sent it to you. And it was, and I think it's really cool that, we're both entertainers and we both had a chance to entertain that night. So it was,
it was fun. I was telling my sister yesterday, I was like, I will always love doing stand-up and performing. Like it's, I'm not actively pursuing it like I was for years in New York and running, but
right.
But I still love doing it. And I still love, like I'm doing a private event when I come back. I'm going to the East Coast tomorrow and I'm coming back. And, I donated a comedy night at a raffle and people bid on it. So I'm doing a private event at these people's house. And
nice.
So it's really fun. I'm like telling the lady how to enhance the comedy, Like you want candlelight, you want close seating. You don't want people standing around. You want them seated. You want them seating close together. Like there's so many things that can add a distraction. I was like, you got to get the kids out of the house, even though I'm not that dirty, but like they're going to be a distraction. Like, so
You're
anyway.
not that dirty. I love that. I'm sorry. That's just so awesome. So tell us about you. Like, what have you been doing? I mean, I know what you've been doing, but my audience doesn't. So,
well, I have this new book, The Power of Community.
How did I not know about this?
That's okay. Courage, compassion, and collaboration leads to success. So I was on a women in business cruise that was supposed to leave in 2022, and then Omicron was coming. We were supposed to leave January. And so we had this meeting, and we were like, we all want to go together. Some people wanted to go. Some people were terrified. So we postponed it till 2023. And I had been asked to come teach humor, to come teach speaking and video visibility, but also how to add humor to things. And so I was really excited, Iris, because I'd always wanted to speak on a cruise, you know, and to explore that as a potential job, you know, possibility. So I'm getting ready to go on this cruise with these other women, and there's like 30 of us. And a few days before, I'm like, you know, I don't really like to cruise. I don't really know these women. What the hell? This was like the worst idea I've ever had. What was I thinking? You know, I was just like, ah. And so luckily I called another woman that I knew was going, and I was like, we have to hide out. I don't want everyone to be able to find me on the ship, because there, you know, there's an app and you can be found. And I was like, I'm going to go to the gym. Like, anyway, we had a blast. We met so many cool people, Iris, so many cool people. And we really bonded. Within 3 days, we were like, and I got to speak and teach everybody about the basics of humor and how to add humor to a story and how to have a saver line. And one of the women on the cruise used to work for Spielberg. She worked for DreamWorks. So, I mean, I was so nervous, but it was awesome. And another woman still works in Hollywood all the time. So it was, you know, just like next level for me with my confidence, and they were like, this was amazing. I wish I'd known this, blah, blah, blah. So out of that cruise, 10 of us decided to do a group book to talk about when women come together, mountains, you know, magic happens when there's collaboration instead of competition. And so my chapter on the book is about the power of having a comedic mindset and how to add humor, because I don't care what you're teaching or talking about. If you can add a little fun to it, your audience will thank you. They will be grateful.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just got off a Zoom with a woman who does really heavy topics. Like, she writes books about like adoption and you know, and depression, but she uses humor in her messaging. And I'm like, you've got to for yourself and your audience. Yeah. So anyway, so that's a little bit about what I've been up to.
That's amazing. I love the whole, you know, not wanting to be on the cruise and then going. I mean, cruises, I'm not going to lie, I've thought about it, but it just scares me to be in the middle of the ocean.
Know, right?
Like, you're there, right? There's like there's lifeboats, but you know, there's also sharks and stuff. So it always freaks me out. But I think that it's really awesome that you were able to go, you were able to bond. So now the book, tell me about the book. I'm like adjusting here because I have like a whole new setup and I'm like all fakakta. So, okay, there we go.
No, that's funny.
I'm like, so the book, what?
So, you know, everybody wrote a chapter, and this is the other authors.
Oh, it's not that clear.
And, you know, it was really cool because sometimes when you do group books, you're just in a book and you don't know anybody else. And I had already done that. I did a group book years and years ago. And so I was like, you know what, if I ever do another group book, I would want it to be with these women, because we all got to know each other, and many of them have become clients. And one of them, Carolyn Pistone, she's the one who worked for Spielberg. She has her own book coming out May 14th. So I've been helping her with that. And, you know, Iris, just like you, I love what I get to do, because I get to pull stories out from people.
Yeah.
And so I get to know their magic. And so many women entrepreneurs are like, well, I did this thing, but whatever. And then I did this other thing. And I'm like, wait. What? You overcame cancer when you were 14? You did what? You raised kids while you were doing the, like every woman I know has like such badass stories. And part of my job, why I'm on this planet, and you are too, is like to help people realize what a gift and how strong and powerful they are. And because when we help people own that, it gives other women permission to do the same, And so I just love pulling stories out and being like, wait, and like, stop discounting that, so.
Yeah. And it's funny because, I'll speak to people like everybody that I've had on here are extraordinary and their stories are just holy crap. But they know it. It's like they know that they have a story. I think
Right.
It's funny. One woman that I had on who is now she's one of my clients. She's a business coach. I remember when she was first on and she was first talking, and like she talked about what she did, like it was, so this is what I do, and I got to see her. And actually, Kofi and I recorded her keynote 2 weeks ago. I think it was two or 3 weeks ago, up in Chicago at Misericordia. And to see who she was when we first met to who she's become, standing on that stage doing a keynote was just like, holy crap. And just watching her own who she is and know that the people in that audience need to hear what she has to say. It's just it was such a, oh my God moment. The other, oh shit moment for me, and it didn't hit me until I think I was walking somebody, because like she did the keynote, and then I was walking a couple of people to the lunchroom, which was, separate because she'd bought lunch for everybody. And it kind of hit me, it almost dropped me to my knees that, 40 years ago, give or take, probably a little more than that, I was homeless. I was in the system. Misericordia is a 37-acre campus that, houses homeless people and disabled people and people with mental disabilities. And just like, they're this amazing organization. And it just kind of blew my mind that, oh my God, I was like one of the residents, like, 40 something years ago, not there, elsewhere, but, and here I am, and I own the agency that's filming the keynote, that's now sitting and talking and having amazing conversation with these admins of this not-for-profit. It was so affirming, I guess. And so, what's the other word? It was, God, I don't think I ever felt so grateful in my life.
I love it. I love it so much. And I feel like women like you and I, because I wasn't homeless, but I probably should have been. Like I was a functioning addict for years and did all kinds of crazy stuff. I had a lot of trauma I didn't know I had and all the things. But I think it's important, when it's appropriate, to tell our stories to show what's possible. Yeah. To show what's possible, because my life is still not perfect and it feels very messy right now, especially. But I'm able to work with amazing people, and I have to pinch myself at least once a day of like these amazing women I get to work with. And I had a conversation with this woman earlier this morning. She's my accountability buddy, and she was saying how she had struggled with depression and anxiety, like crippling. And I was like, do you share that when it's appropriate? Do you share that often? Because people need to know, and you just never know when your little casual story or comment could be a lifeline for somebody else, and I'm a very kind of open person anyway, maybe because I grew up in therapy. Draw your family. How do you feel? How do you really, and so as a comedian, I talk about being sober and not like, yay me, but like, whoo, I still need the program because there's still a lot of crazy, Anyway, but I've accidentally
We
helped
all
a
have a
lot of
lot of
people
crazy.
get sober. Like,
Yeah.
just because I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to a meeting, and other comics have been like, what do you mean? And I'll, just share just a little bit, but I can't tell you how many people, Iris, especially on Facebook, like other waiters, other comedians, people I waited on, like, hey, Elaine, I've got 3 years, or, this
Wow.
headliner, he was this amazing guy, but, evidently he had issues. Like, nobody really knows what's going on with people. And,
Yeah.
a couple years into his sobriety, he was like, hey, I never told you this before, but, and so I feel like, again, not to toot my own horn, but just to share my process, because I know that it helps other people, because there is still so much stigma, so much shame, so much isolation. And I feel like there's still a lack of knowledge about resources. I mean,
Yep.
it's so great that we have the internet and we can connect and do all these cool things. And if you put in Alcoholics Anonymous in Google, a lot of times what pops up are rehabs, very expensive rehabs.
Yes.
And that, unfortunately, that industry is not being regulated. And don't get me started, but oh, honey child, we got to pay some attention to that. But anyway, so I just always, I love it that you share your story about that, because I know that it makes a difference for many people.
Well, and I think that, and we've talked about this before, I really believe that we go through stuff so other people don't have to.
Yeah.
And if they are going through it, that we can actually be the example of hope, that don't give up, because there's so much good waiting on the other side.
Yeah.
I no matter how bad things got, and I think we all back, when we're in that bad state, we always think about, this is just too much, I can't deal with it anymore. And I think that we all at some point have that thought cross our minds, right? But I remember always knowing that, and I don't know how, right? But I always knew that there was something more, that I was meant for more. I didn't know what it was, but I knew it wasn't to be homeless. I knew it wasn't to be, the fucked up kid that I was. I knew it wasn't, I just didn't know what it was. I didn't know it was going to take till I was like 60 years old to figure it out. But that's okay, because, every job, every experience, everything that I went through really gave me all of the tools that I needed to get where I am today. And my favorite saying that I made up, that I'm going to, probably put out there, is, we all have obstacles to overcome, and they can either be stopping stones or stepping stones. And for me, they've always been stepping stones, because when they become a stopping stone, then you stop.
Right.
You don't go further. You don't, not that you die, but you just stop doing whatever it is that you're doing. And if you stop doing what you're doing, then you're not going to get to that next level of what you're supposed to be doing, what you're meant to be doing. So, so that was a big eye opener for me, was, okay, they were never stopping stones. They were always stepping stones. And same thing, right? It's not a mistake. If you learn something, it's a lesson.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I mean, there's a million cliches, a million, things that, you could say, but at the end of the day, it's, for anybody who's out there who's going through a hard time right now, A, there's help. B, it gets better. It truly, truly gets better. But it takes work. It doesn't just like fix itself. You have to do the work. So, but okay. So speaking of the work, so you have been doing this for how many years now?
Sobriety,
Not sobriety. So your business.
My business? Well,
sobriety.
It's funny. I started performing in the second grade. So my parents divorced when I was really little, and nobody got divorced in the 70s. At least that's how it seemed. And So I just remember I was always searching for family. And then I did The Sound of Music and I played Gretel. And I was like, oh my God, applause and family. I'm in, like, I'm in. And I just fell in love, And so I did theater my whole life. And then, I have musical theater, a 2-year thing in that, and then a BA in drama from UT Austin, and studied at the Neighborhood Playhouse, which is one of the premier. David Mamet was there. Like, so many famous people have come out of that work. And, so I started performing and moved to New York because I wanted to do it on another level, because I'd worked professionally in Texas all the time. And that's how I kind of fell into stand-up comedy, because people kept saying, you're really funny. And I was like, what do you mean? And, when New Yorkers are telling you're too intense, it's not a good look, because casting directors were like, you need to take some improv, lady. And I was like, what? So I'm so grateful, because humor really helped me lighten up. And then I started doing coaching training with Debbie Ford, and then I started speaking, and then I fell into, it's like a lot of this has been happy accidents, if you will. And so I wanted to do comedy on the college market, but I was going to be up against people who've done comedy, 10 times on Letterman. And luckily my friends were like, you're not ready. You're funny, but you can't go up against Seinfeld, Elaine, And so, but then my agent was like, well, didn't you have a bunch of addictions? And I was like, yeah. So I came in as the funny eating disorder girl. And then they were like, can you talk about drugs and alcohol? And I was like, sure. And then they said, well, can you talk about sexual assault? And I was like, well, let me get back to you. But, I meditated. I thought, you know what, if I can save one person from this shame, the isolation, the depression, because I had this buried shame that would just take me out, Iris. And I didn't understand it. I didn't know, but I would just be like, going along. And then I could just barely get to work and work out, And so anyway, so I started speaking about my sexual assaults way before Me Too was mainstream. And it was hard, because some people would get triggered, but most of the time people would line up. I mean, every time when people line up to hug me and take pictures, but I always had people saying, I never told anybody this before, but. And so I realized what a gift it is to be able to tell your story in order to help others. And because one of my superpowers is to create safety. So people will just tell me things that they've like, I've never told anybody this before. It happens to me all the time. Right.
I know, me too.
And so, I would always like get kids into, I was like, okay, you don't like your therapist? Let's get you a different one. Oh, you wanted to cut yourself? Okay, wait, give me your number. Let's talk. Oh, you want to go? Let's go to Al-Anon meeting. So I was like the bridge, because I was like, I'm not a therapist, but I played one on TV. But no, I was like, let me help you. And so, and luckily the schools are better equipped now. I was doing this like 2008, 9, 10, 11, I just spoke a couple of years ago, but like when I was talking about the heavy topics, that was like 10 years ago. Yeah. And what I realized was most schools were not adequately trained or prepared to deal with the mental health issues. No. And now they've made progress. Like, yes, we have more progress to go, but if a kid wanted to commit suicide, they would send cops. And that's not like, no, that's not going to help. And so I think there's been some major strides, but it was such a great honor to help save lives. And I stopped a few suicides, and I got some people into counseling, and I got I would be like, wait, because there'd be like a line of students waiting to talk to me, and I'd be like, okay, wait, I need to get your number. What and I always felt like I wish I could be here longer to be with the kids, But I mean, I did the best I could. And thank God we're talking about mental health more now, like we need it. It's a huge thing. Like I know this is some sound woo woo, but I had this lady teach me tarot cards a couple of years ago. And she was talking about tarot cards they're from like the Middle Ages, and they've been around forever. It was fascinating. And she was saying how, and I thought this was so true. You know, a long time ago, people's life expectancy was, you know, if you're a woman, you started cranking out kids when you're 14, 15, 16.
Yeah.
You died when you were 30, and the husband got another kid, you know, like the life expectancy, right? People would have 10 kids because half of them would die. Like, you know, there was all kinds of dysentery and things, right? And so we've made huge strides physically, right, with Western medicine and with better crops and all the things. But now we have more mental issues.
Yeah.
You know, to make a gross generalization. And so, you know, I don't know exactly where I fit in, but I know that I'm happy. I have this big personality and I have this big heart. And I know, you know, the first time I did comedy and I started talking about my family and everybody started cracking up and my light bulb went off of like, oh my God, I'm supposed to help people who maybe they won't go to therapy or do the landmark forum or go do tapping or any of the other things, but going and laughing is a release. It's an identification and to know that they're not alone in their crazy, messed up family stories or whatever. And so, you know, sometimes I'm like, okay, show me, where do you, you know, help guide me. Where do you want me? You know,
Yeah.
because there's still a lot of work to do.
Oh, there's so much. And you talk about tarot. My mindfulness coach and I, they're right there. Every week we pick, it's so funny. Like we'll pick 4 cards for the week and it'll be like, you know, what does Iris need to know this week? And it's just like the weirdest stuff sometimes, like a card will fly out that, you know, and I'll pick it up and it's like, oh, shit.
Oh, shit. Right.
So it's kind of cool. But I think that as far as mental health issues, so my friend Brandy is the executive director of mental health at Mental Health America, Wabash Valley, which is here.
Okay.
And they were one of the agencies around the country to be chosen to have a 988 hotline center. So that we actually have a local hotline center here for suicide, mental health. And it's so important. I think, you know, to be able to talk about mental health is such a privilege because so many people still, you know, they still think it's a stigma. They're afraid to talk about it. And for me, it's like, I mean, yeah, that's what got me where I am, was I was able to work through all of the stuff. Like you know, I went to therapy like my whole freaking life. You know, I was in like boarding school from, I think, 11 to 14. And they were like, so, you know, do you want to talk about your grandfather molesting you? And I'd be like, no. Okay. And they wouldn't, you know, they wouldn't push it. Right. Or, you know, I think I was like 19 and, you know, my mom found out that I was gay. And so I had to go for 3 psychiatric evaluations. And
oh
my God, one was a friend of the family who was such a schmuck. He was such a mean.
Oh, that's horrible. You had to talk about that with a friend of the family.
So he was terrible. And he's like, I can fix her, number one. That was one thing. And then I remember when I was like 14 or 15, my dad had me go to my uncle's brother. I can't remember the whole family connection, but you know, to be diagnosed because I just gotten out of this boarding school that my mother put me in because she didn't want to deal with my shit. And he said that I was socially retarded. And so, yeah. And so we were I know, at 15, right? So you hear that you're socially retarded.
Who isn't? I mean, I know that's not an accepted word anymore, but that's how I feel at every party. Like I still feel socially anxious, which is one reason I used to drink and drug.
Well, right. So at 15, I'm being told this, or I might have been even younger. Anyway, so,
gosh.
So he turned out he was just an awful guy. You know, it is what it is. And then it's like, that sticks with you. And then,
Sure.
my mother moved out when I was 15 and, all the things,
More
right?
trauma.
So
More trauma.
more trauma, more trauma. I didn't graduate high school. I had to come up to New York to get a GED. Like people think that I have like my master's or a PhD. It's like, no, I don't have like, I have like a GED. But I got my smarts because I think it was like Arrested Development, but when I grew. And it was just like
Right.
sucking everything in and just absorbing everything and learning and learning. I was always smart. I remember my friend Gail she invited me to this party that City Corps in New York was having. And she wanted me to meet her mentor and her boss. And I'll never forget this. And her boss's name was Lottie. And I was holding my own with like AVPs and all these people. I'm like 21 years old, just, fresh from being homeless. And here's this woman who said, hey, you go to school, you'll have a job waiting for you when you come out. But you have to go to school, you have to do it all, blah, blah, blah. And I just didn't have the wherewithal and the belief in myself to say, okay, I'm gonna go to school, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
So I didn't do it.
It sounds like you had no parental support or guidance.
Nothing. Oh, nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was, but again, people can come from what I came from or less and build. You can grow. You can have a successful business. You can have a successful life. Do we still have issues? Of course. We're right. Always going to have them, right? Because we come from, right. And everybody has trauma and, whether they want to admit it or not. But I think that it's what we do with it, what we do with the opportunities when we finally realize, hey, we're worth it. Because that's the point, is going, okay, we're worth it. And even days where we feel that we're not, because I know there are days that we feel that we're not still, right? And we go, you got to get through the day, because tomorrow you're going to wake up and it's going to be a whole different day.
Well, and I know for me, I always love to remind myself and everybody else, like, you're so much bigger than your circumstances.
Oh,
like sometimes I think we get so stuck in our, worth. And so I've done mirror work off and on for years. And I'll try to look in the mirror and say, Elaine, I love you with or without a man, with or without comedy gigs, with or without clients, with or without, like, no matter what. Because I felt like the messages I got were love was very conditional. And then I continued that with my relationship with myself. And that's one thing I'm really working on. And well, you're a walking miracle, Iris. And I love it. You're just such a pistol,
Well, back at you. I mean, I think we both had our stuff. So, but of course, people are listening to this about, to hear stuff about entrepreneurship. So, it's funny. I told Kofi, it's like this show has evolved so much because it's always about the journey,
right?
Because there's a journey to entrepreneurship. It doesn't just happen. You don't just wake up one day and be like, I'm going to start a business or whatever. Or maybe you do, but it's not the easiest thing to do in the world. And a lot of people think that it is. So on that note, what advice would you have for like somebody who's thinking of starting a business?
Oh, this is great. Perfect. I just was on a call with a woman and she's new. And I said, I have to tell you, my whole life, I was always like waitressing, acting, house sitting business. I always had like 4 things going. And so I was used to like, I have an hour, like work out, whatever. I have an hour to work on whatever it is. Right. And then I had to run to the airport or run into New York or run to a gig in Pennsylvania. Right. And so when I finally took the leap, I was like this, I should do, I should do in the morning. Like I was like a dog chasing my tail. And I was in these big masterminds and I had structure, but I did not know how to just do the basic work. And my anxiety was very high and my belief was a little wobbly. And, hindsight's 2020. So I wish I had gotten an accountability buddy, like no joke. And then also having structure. And I know entrepreneurs are like, no, but like, I have accountability calls Monday through Friday. I have sales blitzes where I get on Zooms, or I have co-working things because, left to my own devices, some days I'm like focused and like following up, and other days I'm like, squirrel, what?
Oh, yeah.
I need to do research on social media for my client. Let me scroll, like bullshit sometimes. And so I know having support, having accountability, because really the structure gives you freedom and the discipline and learning. Like I've had to train, my nephew, like I am so happy to walk on your back, but after 5:00 or whatever. And like, or knowing like, you know what, I need my brain in the morning. I'm the freshest. So that's when I'm going to do something technical that's hard or write copy. Or then, if I'm doing like something that's easier, I can do that later in the day. And so like, I had to learn how to work in a whole nother way. And there's a book called Whatever Got You Here Won't Get You There,
Yes.
which I have not read. It's been on my list. But, so I think just like, I know I get caught up in the big things and the big programs but sometimes it's, I tell myself systems are sexy. Implementation is sexy, and it doesn't feel sexy. Like, I love to learn. You love to learn, Iris? Like, I love to talk. I love to teach. I love to take notes. I love to go learn new things. I love to share. I could podcast all day. Like, oh, honey. But like, and that's all great. But what happens with a lot of entrepreneurs is implementation. Like, learn the new stuff, but don't spend your whole day, spend an hour, like be structured. Don't like, there's like giving yourself grace. And then there's also letting yourself off the hook. And there's a fine line, right? Like you don't want to be so crazy with yourself and super that you're only eating carrots and, whatever. But like, if okay, I really love to learn and this is really, really tedious, then you know what? You need to do the tedious stuff. If you want to have a business, like sometimes that is not the fun stuff of staying home and implementing. I love running all over. I could just go talk and speak and schmooze and hug on people all day long. And that's great. But if I'm not putting them into my thing and taking the time to follow up and taking the time to go, oh, maybe a resource. Oh, I want to introduce you to so-and-so and so-and-so. I actually think that's fun too. But, there's certain things that are tedious, but I'm learned I got to put my big girl panties on and do them. And someday I'm going to have my dream team and they're just going to point me, Elaine, talk here, do this, teach here, do this, go here, do this. And they do everything else. I can't wait. They're going to manage me, but I'm not at that place yet. So until I get that in place, which is going to take more sales, but I'm still doing some of the stuff, but I would say, even if you hate it, if you're an entrepreneur, part of being an entrepreneur is putting your big girl panties on. And, I got to come up with a better phrasing, but, doing the stuff you don't want to do. Right. But if you bookend it with somebody and say, okay, I'm committing to doing 20 blah, blah, blahs. And then at the end of the day or the hour or whatever, you say, I did it. Or I didn't, it's so basic, but I think it gets overlooked. What do you think, Iris?
I mean, I'll agree with that. And so I'm in the process now of building that team, which is not for the week. I'll just tell you that.
Yeah.
And so for me, I enjoy the teaching. I enjoy, clearly, I want to start speaking. So that's on the agenda for either this year or next year, hopefully this year, but we'll see what happens. but I think that we all have our talents, and as entrepreneurs, we have to really look at, number one, there's two things. You need to know who your target is without a doubt. Like, that's number one, right? So you have to get that piece done. As far as all the systems and all the other things, yes. I mean, I was doing that myself. I hired a VA because I can't. Like, I suck. There are just some things that I know that I suck at, and that's one of them. But then I look in my email box and it's like, I don't know if I want anybody handling my email, right? Because there are certain things in there that, I don't want people to see. But then also, they don't know how to respond.
Right.
There are some things, right? Not yet. Anyway, I'm not at that place that I have that person that can respond the way that I really need them to respond without sending me the email first and saying, how does this look? Then I may as well freaking write it myself.
Right.
So I'm working on that piece. Actually, I think I have that solved, but we'll talk about that offline. But, by the time this airs, it'll be solved. But I think that you're right. And maybe there is a better way to say, put your big girl panties on. I think it's just like, I don't know what it would be, but you're right. Do the thing. You have to do not the thing, the things. There are so many things, and you have to learn the things so that you can teach the things to the people that you need to do them. Right.
And you know what, Iris? That's why humor and self-compassion, because most of us, if we worked in corporate, we had one hat. Okay, maybe we worked two or three. I was a head trainer. I did different things. I was always having to go do special catering events and blah, blah, but, and then nobody tells you, oh, start your own business. It'll be great. Freedom. You're like at your desk 20 hours a day. You didn't realize you were going to have to be a studio head, an editor, makeup artist. You got to know your color. Like, there's so many things, right? And so I think what happens is a lot of amazing entrepreneurs are in fight, flight, freeze, freak out because they're trying to do it all because they don't have whatever. And so if you can keep giving yourself grace and have a sense of humor, it will help you stay in the game, because it is a marathon. When I started doing comedy, this guy who owns Gotham, he said, Elaine, I don't like many of your jokes, but you've got the presence and the style. You got to work on your writing. And he goes, but comedy is a marathon. It's a marathon. And that has really stayed with me. And I feel like business is a marathon. Yeah. And so instead of being this frenetic, crazy person, which God knows I was, like, settling for the climb. Okay. And learning priorities. Like, okay, great. You want to work on a new logo? It's probably not the most important thing than following up from the 10 people who loved your talk last week. Why don't you put the logo on Sunday afternoon? It's so easy to want to avoid the things that are so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And when you can lean in to okay, I'm going to do this thing, but bookend it, and then reward yourself. Like, I'm a huge fan of, I'm basically 5. Emotionally, I'm 5. So if I do something that's scary, I'll go reward myself with I get to go on a walk, or I'll go watch some comedy. I do little games with myself. I gamify stuff.
Okay. And that's a good way to get it done. I mean, for me, I'm kind of I have to sit down, and it's funny. So I'll sit down. I write notes like a 2-year-old. It's like I'll take notes in a meeting, and then I'm like, oh, what the fuck did I just write? I'll look at it. I know.
Yeah, this is me.
But I mean,
trying to not do paper.
20. Yeah. So here's this is this is my client's, funnel that, I did a VIP.
This is how you run their business on the back of a thing, right?
It's hilarious. So I'm like, okay, I have your funnel. So I wrote it down, and I'm like, and now I'm going to have my wife put it in a nice little, graph, because that's what she does. But it's I'll write something down, and then I'll leave it alone. And then all of a sudden it's pressure. And then I get the thing done.
Right.
Because I know I have 2 hours to do it. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I have this meeting. I got like do this now. Or, oh crap, I was supposed to do this. I have to do this now.
Right.
And there's no reason to have to work like that. There's like zero reason to have to work like that. So I've been working really hard on not working like that. Like I've spent the last 2 months going, and 2 months. And I've been at this now for like 10 years. We're celebrating 10 years in May. It was actually April. Thank you. It was like April 10th, I think, 2014. But anyway, but it took like 10 years. That's why I say like overnight successes happen in 10 years. They don't happen overnight, right?
Just like Sheryl Crow, she got newcomer of the year award when she did All I Want to Do Is Have Some Fun, and she was like, thank you. But I have been pounding the pavements in LA for 10 years.
Yeah. Lizzo, the same thing.
Yeah, I really don't think it's kind of like when people say, oh, passive income. Every residual I've ever gotten, which has not been a lot, I spent years working on my craft, auditioning, meeting casting directors and agents and directors. So even though I get a check from blah, 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 I don't consider that passive because I worked my butt off. Same for rent. Yeah, you know what? I'm a landlord. And some months I get all the rent on time and it's all good. And there are other months when I am busting my butt. Painting, scraping, cleaning, doing so many things that I have handymen, but I'm helping them too or whatever.
Right.
So I don't like, I think passive and overnight success is complete bullshit.
Yep.
And ask any entrepreneur. Like, I just think it gives false expectations for new people, and it's a way to sell programs that don't serve people. So I'm very
I think that, so I'm laughing because I just got a message from my web guy and where, you talk about the hurry up thing, right? We have 2 weeks to get these 2 sites done that were supposed to be done. I want to say the second week of April. But because of the client, we didn't have the stuff. They didn't choose the stuff, whatever. It's late. And so I get a text from my client going, is my site done? No. You literally just got me your stuff. And I'm sharing this because normally I don't respond to stuff on when I'm doing my podcast. But, a lot of what we do, what I do anyway, depends on my clients. If they don't get me the stuff,
right,
I can't build a website. I can't get the copy. I can't do the thing. Right. And so as much as being an entrepreneur is on you, it's also on your client. So, and I had a conversation with somebody last week and they were like, what's a good client for you? I said, let me go one better. Here's a bad client. These are the people that I don't want to work with.
Well,
which sounds terrible, right? But it's true.
No, but I think that's, as we evolve and grow, like I am really working on owning my value, and that I've been in the entertainment industry for 40 plus years. So I know things, I know nuances and tips and tricks and tools. I know things that are just like second nature to me, but many, many, many people don't know that, right? So like, how much value is that, right? And same for you. This is not your first rodeo. And so I think as we evolve, we can say, yeah, you know what? These are the people I work with, and I no longer work with these people, but I am so happy. Let me be a resource. Let me pass them on. I know some newer people,
right?
And I'll just confess, Iris, I'm messy. I'm creative. Like, I like to have my place neat and orderly, and it's sort of half there, right? A lot of times. And yet I am a perfectionist. which is confusing to me because I'm not like a Virgo, everything's organized. I call myself like a sloppy perfectionist. And so what I've realized is
we're so alike. It's like insane.
it's so crazy. I know. So like when I was redoing my website, I could not figure out like, now, do I help my clients with their stuff all the time? We craft what their welcome video is going to be. We, all the things. But could I get my stuff done? It's embarrassing. I think it took me 8 months to get the stuff and I know I was bumping up against my perfectionism, and it's like, oh my God, I help my clients with this every day. And yet I was paralyzed. So I finally just had to come to Jesus talking. It was not my best, but I was like, just finish it. But I'm grateful because it helped me have compassion for what people are going through. Because I think what happens is we go, okay, I gotta be in the zone when I write this copy. I gotta be like excited and creative and in the flow. And when does that come? Once every 6 months, like if you're waiting to be inspired, right? Like most writers, you sit down and you write, and some days you're inspired and other days you're like, this is shit, but you're still writing because that's what professionals do.
Yes.
But yeah, so no, I get it. I mean, I think to me, that's one of the joys and challenges of being an entrepreneur. And many times we're our own worst enemy.
Oh, 100%. I remember when we were doing my website, we went down to, last March, I went down to Charleston. Right. Kim was like, you have to get a photo shoot. And I was like, I don't want to get a photo shoot. No, you have to get a photo shoot because the website's going to be all you. And I was like,
Did you do stuff with Whitney?
No. But, I'm working with Whitney now on a couple of things. I'm working with Kristen. I'm working with these are people.
I just love her so much.
Whitney's
so cool.
Amazing. Yes. And she's actually helping me with, my speaker page and some other stuff. But what was I going to say? Oh, so I had to go down to Charleston. Actually, she couldn't meet me because we all went out for dinner, and she just told me she lives like an hour and a half from where we were. And it would have been 3 hours round trip. And I was like, no, girl, because I gave her shit for not meeting me, but I completely get it. But anyway, so we did the photo shoot, and the photo shoot was hilarious because I was like, I'm not used to being on this side of the camera.
Right. It's very strange, isn't it?
I'm not comfortable. So this is going to have to be like a 2-episode podcast.
Yeah,
because I'm fine with that too. I have no idea how long we're talking. But anyway, so I go down, I do the thing, and I'm flipping them the bird half the time. They have me holding this podcast mic that looks like like a very phallic symbol. And I'm like, I am not comfortable holding this. Like, I'm going to send you, I'm going to share.
Oh my God, you have to send me.
You're going to die. Because I was like, I am not okay with this. So a lot of pictures, didn't get on the website, but so we took it and, she's like, lean forward, put your shoulder down. I'm like,
oh, it's so hard. Do this, stick your chin out. Like natural, go.
Put your this. I was like, fuck you. You put your chin out, right? But this is what I do for my clients when we do a photo shoot, right? So it was just really, really weird. And then, she's working on the website. I'm loving it. And then I see the hero image. And this is what my keynote speech is going to be on. I see the hero image and I was like, oh shit, it's me. It's like me. I had a very sterile corporate site before that. And now it is me. And it's like my profile, and I always hated my profile because I always thought that I looked like a bird. And so I was like so uncomfortable looking at, I was like, oh no, no, it's a great picture. No, I'm not okay with this. Just let me finish the rest of the site. So I was like having anxiety attacks, panic attack. I would look at it and I would go like this. So then she did the inside pages and all these, everything is me. Like I'm all over the site, like with a couple of clients, but it's like me. And finally I was like, I can't, I need a different hero image. And she was like, absolutely not. People want to work with you. Okay. So I'm looking at this site every single day. And the first day was, oh shit, that's me. And 2 weeks later, 2.5 weeks later, I looked at the site and I called my wife and I was like, babe. And she's like, what? And I was like, come here. She's like, what is wrong with you? So she comes in and I'm like, oh shit, that's me. I built that. I fucking built that. People want to work with me. That's why it looks like that. And everything just kind of, just for me, came full circle. And it was like, at that point, I look in the mirror every morning and I say how much I love myself and, go out there and you go kill him. And it's like, even if I don't feel that way in the morning, I'm like, still go out there and kill him, right? Like you do. And I do love myself. I've gotten to the point that I can look in the mirror every morning and be like, hey, I love you. Now go out and kill it. And there are days that, we feel a little bit differently, but for like the most part, that's how I feel. And looking at the website, it was like, holy shit, this is amazing. Like I've built this despite everything, right? Despite everything.
In spite of yourself.
In spite of myself, everything. In spite of all the things. And I can't tell you how many jobs I've gotten because people go to my website and they're like,
it's really you.
It's you. Like you're you. Like I come to your site, I talk to you on Zoom, I see you in person, you're you. Who else would I be? And you were talking about being authentic, right?
Which we started with in the beginning of our episode.
Yeah.
And, I would just say, Iris, I love that you shared your process because I think this is important, especially for women to hear. So there are many times I have seen, I love shooting from the waist up. Whoa, but
that's why I'm sitting here like this today, pulling my shirt down.
My whole body, right? Seeing my whole body. I'm 5'2.5". I am muscular. I have marathon thighs, right? Like I have done marathons and they're not fat, but they are, right? And so there are so many times when I have watched a video or a picture of my full body and I'm like, I literally have a hard time seeing it. All I can see is like my butt or, and so what I've learned is to make sure I'm in a good space. And then sometimes I have to watch something 2 to 4 times. Same with headshots, as I have wrinkles and I have different, there's some angles that you're like, whoa, not that one. Right. But, yeah. And I have to remind myself, Elaine, you're not auditioning for Broadway as an ingenue. You are 56 years old. You are a businesswoman who also does comedy and da, da, da. You're not auditioning for the 20 or 30 somethings. It's okay. I have to remind myself.
Yeah.
But what I love, why I love teaching video and speaking is the more you do it, there is something that happens about learning to accept it. And so that's why I watch things a couple of times, and usually by the third or fourth time, I'm like, oh yeah, that's how I look right now. Hey, would I love to lose a few more pounds someday? Sure. Am I going to hold a whole project up because I'm not twiggy? No. I don't do that anymore. And so I love it that you were like, at first you were like, oh my God, it's me. And then we have to we get to integrate it. And also, if you think about it, Iris, I don't care how badass New York you are, you and I were conditioned. I'm born in 1968. We were conditioned. So much of our worth was how we look. So much of our worth was God knows you can't be fat. So the messages we got in the 70s, 80s, 90s, your identity, how you look. Mitch McConnell said something about she's very pleasing to me. It's amazing. He was talking about a congresswoman and they asked him what he thought. And he said, oh, she's very pleasing to the eye to me. And it's just that's the messaging we grew up with. And so just knowing that
Mitch McConnell had the balls to say that because did he look in the fucking mirror? Sorry,
you're like a walking dead man, but whatever.
Anyway, sorry, we digress.
But I'm just knowing giving yourself some compassion and grace and knowing like, oh, that's what I grew up with. And I am still unlearning and relearning and peeling away the layers and like, yeah, this is how I look. Right. And, I had, somebody made a comment about my neck. This is years ago. And, she said, somebody told me, they said, oh, Elaine, they didn't like your angle and they thought that your neck looked really horrible. And of course, for the first few minutes, I was like horrified. And then I thought, oh my God, that's hilarious to me. If you are focusing on my neck, and I'm not teaching beauty or fashion, like, well, then clearly we are not meant to work together. And so I think also practicing, this is my new website. This is me. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and being okay with that. And how do you do that? You show up and you suit up and you look at your website and you share it, or you share the thing. And, and as we do that, we give other people permission to do the same,
right?
Well,
it's the same.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was, one of my prayers is to use my story for good. And whatever that means, like maybe I need to talk about the assault. Maybe I need to talk about 3 addictions. Maybe I need to talk about how comedies help me lighten the heck up. There's lots of elements, right? But I pray to use my story for good and to have my time on this planet have made a difference. And that commitment is so much bigger than, oh my God, I have a new wrinkle. Oh, look, my hair's balding. Yeah. You know what? I could pick myself apart, and I'm sure people do every day, but my commitment to make a difference is so much bigger than that bullshit. Right. I'm not trying to be an Instagram influencer and sell, dresses with pockets or whatever. I'm on a mission to help the helpers, and you are too, right? And so I think when we can get in touch with that, it's so much bigger. Oh, so much bigger.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people have a hard time with being authentic. Because of what we're taught, because they're afraid, right? Because of all the same, right? It's scary. But when you are authentic, and the most beautiful thing about it is that when you are authentic, you bring the people who want to work with you to you. And because when you're inauthentic, you're bringing the wrong people. You're bringing the people who think they know who you are. And then as soon as the real you comes out, they're like, whoa, what the hell was that? And then
it reminds me of how I used to date, right? Like, and I keep thinking about Iris. I remember you shared this, like one of the first times you and I talked about how somebody in one of your networking things years ago said, oh, you're just too Irish.
Yeah, he said, be less you. Be less you.
A man said that.
A man. Yeah. And I did for 8 months, and then I fired him. But because I realized that, the people that I was bringing weren't the right people.
Weren't the right people.
And now, like, my wife laughs. She's like, you can't be as selective as you're being because you're never going to make money. I'm like, bullshit. I'm making money because I'm being selective. Because if I work with the wrong people, they're going to be gone. And I'm not going to do my best job for them. I'm just not. And it sounds terrible, but it's like, and I don't know a really nice way to put this, but if I don't care about you, I don't give a shit about your business. And then I don't care if you succeed. And that sounds awful, but that's the God's honest truth. So my clients know who I'm working with, that I will bust my ass for them. I will go that extra mile because I love them all. Every single client that I have, I adore. And there is nothing that I wouldn't do for them. And it is what it is. And each relationship is different, right? There's a different level of, whatever in each relationship, but they are all relationship based. And that was the important thing for me. And that was why I think some of my, other business ventures didn't work out because, they were all about, we just need this many people. We just need this many people. The relationship will come later. And it's like, no, I would rather work with 30 people a year, knowing them, that their kids' names are, Buffy or Johnny or whatever, right? And knowing their birthday and knowing all the things and knowing that they love New York bagels or that they love, they love Harry and David's of all the things, right? I love the pears. I'll send you Harry and David's all year long.
I do. I feel the same way. I fall in love with my people.
Yeah.
And that's how I want it to be. I
Right.
love it when I wake up thinking, noodling on them, or like, oh, we get on Zoom and I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting all these downloads. Are we recording? Okay, good. Like I love that.
Yeah.
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 And to me, that's, I feel like it's God's work in my own way. It's, I mean, it is, I'm in this really interesting positive intelligence program, Iris. I'm going to invite you if I get to invite people next time around. It's so fascinating. And I'm in a pod, and two of the women in my pod are ministers. And when they told me that, I was like, oh God, sometimes I cuss, and they were like, we do too. And I was like, oh, praise Jesus. I'm good. I'm in the right people. They're so cool. They're so down. They're East Coasters. So of course they're real,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
yeah, I love it. Well, I could talk to you all day.
I know. I don't even know how long. Okay. Kofi, you're going to have to like splice this. I have no idea how long we've been talking. It's easily over I don't even know how long.
Yeah, I think
Okay. So cut that, and I'm going to start again. Okay. So actually cut this too, because we may have to splice something somewhere because I have no idea how long we've been talking. And we didn't get to we got to one question, which is fine because honestly, that's fine. But okay, I'm going to ask the final question, which
okay.
is, what lights your fire? Or no, I'm going to ask you your differentiator and then what lights your fire. So,
Okay.
and then so you're going to cut. I'm going to start again. And we're going to do like a thing. Okay. So, anyway, okay. So you are, you've been doing this for whatever. What is your differentiator? What sets you apart from other coaches?
It's humor. I use humor to pattern interrupt. I use humor to cajole people into stretching. And when I get downloads about their video series and their signature talks and even podcast guesting, I'm always like, okay, how can we make it fun? How could we add a little play? Because I think we desperately need to laugh and connect. And I know you love humor as much as I do. And, when we laugh, it releases the positive feel good chemicals. We release toxins. We burn calories. We take in more oxygen. It is physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually good for us. And it's free.
Right.
So, I use it in my humor and my teaching. And I love inviting other people to be open to it. And I'm not saying everybody has to turn into a stand-up comedian. But there's so many ways you can cultivate humor and incorporate it that will uplift your life and the others.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. And it's true. I mean, you have to be able to laugh, but you have to be able to laugh at yourself. Like if you screw something up, you have to be able to sit there and laugh at yourself
daily.
Easily, right? Easily. It's like, what did I was talking to one of my clients last week and my brain literally stopped in the middle of the conversation. I went, I think my brain just stopped. And she just looked at me. I said, we need to regroup. And she was just like, that's what I love about you, right? Is that you have no problem telling me your brain literally just stopped working. I was just so done because I had meeting after meeting after meeting. And we were going over her thing and over her thing. And it was just oh my God. And we got done and I called her. I said, okay, now I'm not in business mode. I am so sorry. I'm but literally I feel like my brain just froze. And I said, it's okay. So, I had brain freeze. And then she thought that was funny because of the brain freeze, from ice cream. And she was like, oh my God, ha, ha. And I was like, I didn't mean that, but okay, that kind of just kind of worked. So, but yeah, so, okay. Thank you so much for coming back and gracing our screens with your just amazing presence and your wit and your brilliance. Your brilliance, because I love you to death.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me. And you spot it, you got it. So, Iris, I'm so glad we're friends and that we get to see each other and Yeah, it's a blessing to know you. So thank you.
Well, back at you. And the last question, of course, that I ask all of my guests is, what lights your fire?
I would say seeing people grow, seeing people do things they didn't think they could do before, and myself included, but just like, we have so much potential. And so many times we just have these limiting beliefs or whatever. And like being able to do things that we didn't think were possible. I love watching clients and other coaches and colleagues do it. And myself, it's like, what's possible? It does light my fire.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Let me say goodbye and I'll be right back.
Okay.
So, everybody, thank you so much for hanging in an hour plus as you always do. I hope that you now adore Elaine as much as I do. And oh, wait, speak over me, because where can people find you?
Oh, if you go to Instagram, Elaine Williams Fun, or captivatethecrowd.com. Those are the two easiest.
Awesome. Okay. So now you know where to go. Not that I'm telling you where to go, but I'm going to tell you where to go. So thank you all so much. I appreciate everything. Keep downloading. Our downloads are up, so that's amazing. Download, subscribe, like, share. Talk about Elaine. Go check Elaine out on Instagram. She has like a gazillion different reels, and they're like one is better than the next. Thanks again. And until next time, go out and find what lights your fire. See ya.